Welcome to Shakti's Gift, a podcast about creating a unique way of living. I'm your host, Marigol Era, Ayurvedic wellness coach, unschooling mother, and creative force. I think that life is a tapestry of all our stories, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, and everything in between. So, in this podcast, I want to invite you to unleash your creativity and unveil yourself, your true self, so that we make this world a better place to live in. So, grab yourself something to drink, get yourself comfortable, and let's dive deep into what the hell does it mean to be a human in this modern age and time. Hello, beautiful beings. A new season is approaching. How did you spend your summer? Personally, my summer was all about embracing my cute little border town. So we did a lot of activities with the kids. We had so much fun. It was a really great summer. So, just a little announcement, I'm going to start recording new interviews pretty soon. So, this season, I want to explore creativity and its healing powers. So, if you're interested on being on the show, or if you know some highly creative people that are exploring that kind of topics, please feel free to refer them to me. Or if you are this person, just click on the link down below, be a guest on Shakti's Gift. Um, yeah, and so we can meet and talk about creativity. All right, so today I'm presenting you an interview that I did a while back with Sally Meyers, who is on a mission to get women over 40 to be less focused on their weight and their diet and fitness and all of that, and be more focused on their passion, purpose, and happiness. So she believes that there's a lot of unlearning to do, particularly for women in this day and age, in order for us women to truly blossom. So we had like a very in the flow conversation around that topic, which was very fun. So I'm gonna leave you to this episode, and if you're interested in connecting with Sally, of course, all of her links are down below as well. So you can always click on those. I hope you have a really great episode, and I'll see you soon. All right. So today we're with Sally. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Shakti's Gift.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So let's jump right into it. How would you define what you're doing?
Hmm, great question. So, um, what I am doing has evolved over the last few years, and I feel like we've talked about it being kind of a rebellion, right? Like it's not um, what the mainstream diet and fitness industry would tell you to do. So I work with women who are struggling to lose weight. And I believe that the typical fitness and diet industry has it backwards. We're told that when we lose weight, we'll be happy. And my counter to that is let's get happy and then let weight loss be a side effect of living the most joyful life that we can.
I love that. It's so true. Like we're so much of our lives revolve around like the exterior of like the
Hmm.
appearance of what we look like. And it's like how we feel inside is like so much more important. And I feel
Right.
like they're connected. Don't you think they're connected?
100%. Yes, I do. I feel like when we can't, I feel like as women in society, we have put ourselves so far on the back burner that I tell my clients, you've fallen in that dusty crack behind the stove.
Hmm.
And we get stuck and we don't remember what brings us joy or what feels fun to us or what feels comforting to us besides food. And so I think a lot of times we're using food um, to fill a gap that
Hmm.
really needs to be filled with having fun and being joyful and feeling fulfilled and pursuing our passions. And I feel like when we can do that, that joy that we find inside exudes on the outside, and we feel more motivated to take better care of our bodies and maybe to dress ourselves better or whatever that looks like,
Hmm.
because we feel better on the inside. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean, in Ayurveda, we always talk about self-care and how like
Mhm.
our daily routine and how we can like support our life, our bodies, our mind, our soul, like everything with some self-care practices. And I think that we can
Yes,
touch on that a little bit, which what you're saying
definitely.
right now. And that could bring you some happiness because you take care of yourself. And as women, I think it's very, very important for us to do that. And I think we just forgotten
Yeah,
how to.
right. I think we've been told we shouldn't. I
Yeah.
think it goes beyond forgetting how to. I think we've been told we're selfish
Mm.
or we're not a good person if we don't put everyone else and everything else in front of us. And I'm sure you're on my soapbox up there with me, just saying that's not true, guys. Let's reevaluate that.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, we, you're so right. I feel like we have just like forgotten how to even be women, and how
Yeah,
to embrace all of that compose being a woman.
yeah,
And with the go go go, and you have to work, you have to do this, you have to do this. And that's where we're forgotten, we're forgotten how to express ourselves as women. And um
hmm,
I feel like that happiness is can be rooted to that. If we're not
yeah,
like taking really good care of ourselves as women. For me,
hmm,
I know that from my personal experience, if I don't self-care, I just go down the drain. And I just like recently I just had like stuff that came up for me like
hmm,
every day there was something, and I was like,
right,
God, I can't, like, I don't have the time to go and just like do the things that nourish me. And suddenly like my mental health just went down the drain. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And you just like go into this kind of cycle where you forget to eat what feels right, or you forget
right,
to just like move and to put some really cool clothes that you feel comfortable in and feel
right,
beautiful in, and forget to go outside. And you just like get
hmm,
stuck in a mindset where um you are not in touch with your creativity, which is what
right,
brings us to that state of
yeah.
happiness. And yeah,
And that's part of being feminine, right? That's
I
part of
know.
being a woman, that creative, flowing. Um, I think I tell my clients, you get so caught up in the doing that you forget that you're a human being and we're
Mm,
supposed to just be sometimes, right? Like it's like our computers or our phones, every once in a while they need to shut down or they don't work properly. Or if there are
yes.
too many tabs open, it doesn't work properly, right? So we have to treat our bodies in the same way. Like they need rest, they need shut down, they need care, preventative care, right, to keep functioning the way we want them to function. And I think that we get so caught up in um, almost like survival mode, right? Like we have to do all these things need to be done, all these things need to be done, that we push ourselves onto the back burner. But a lot of the times, if we really sit and evaluate, some of that stuff that we're rushing to get done really doesn't need to be done right now. And if we don't make time, there will never be time.
Yeah.
It's a matter of making time, not having time to take
Yeah.
care of ourselves. Because otherwise, you get sick or you have to shut down and then you're stressed out about all these things. But when we can make that time to be mindful and be resting and do those things, I think then when we are in stressful situations, we can handle it that much better because we're accustomed to being able to bring the level down a little bit and rest.
Yeah, yeah, we get caught up into, like, I know for myself, sometimes I will, like, my mind will go to, I don't have time to do this. And then I just have to switch it to say, how do I make time? How do I
Yes,
create a space to do the things that I wish I could do, And you get
right,
like conditioned and into thinking that you don't have time, but it's just a matter of like prioritizing what you really Yeah, what you really want, what you really need in that moment.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think we also get, you tell me if you agree with this, I think we also get in perfectionist mode, and we think that self-care has to involve these 15 things, and these 15 things are going to take 2 hours. And if I don't have 2 hours, then I can't do any of it at all, when really like 10 deep breaths might do the trick, or reading something that's uplifting might do the trick, or whatever that is, right? Or eating a healthy breakfast might do the trick. Like self-care can come in so many different forms, and it doesn't have to be the same every day, and it doesn't have to take a long time. We can find those things that really rejuvenate us, that don't take a lot of time and don't cost a lot of money,
Mm,
and we can vary it. It doesn't always have to be the same, but I think we get in that perfectionist mode where we feel like, oh my God, if I can't do all of it, I can't do any of it.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I remember when I was studying Ayurveda, we were always talking about self-care because it's such a big part of it. You learn how to self-care, and then you learn how to deal with your body. You become more sovereign in your health. And then we were just talking a lot about self-care, and it was like we could just like do that all day, and it was like
Right.
so we had like this whole list, of things, and we can
Right.
do our morning routine up until like 5 in the afternoon, and it's like
Right.
we're
Exactly.
still like doing it, like putting some oil and then like
Right.
like doing your hair and your makeup and your bath and your shower and
Right.
all the things, and it's like
Right.
never ending. And I think it's very fun to do once in a while, like to have like this
Yeah.
curious self-care day. Like for me, I think it's very fun to do. But you're right, I think that we have to keep in mind that we do have a busy life, and we can do stuff that are like less time consuming but still effective, um
Right.
to help us.
And I think
Yeah.
what a big part of this is, just like we were talking about, women kind of forgetting how to take care of themselves, or forgetting that it's necessary. I think that we forget, and especially I see this in the diet and fitness industry, when you're like, let's say you're following a diet and exercise regimen. Well, on day one, you do this and you eat this and you eat this amount of stuff and you work out for this amount of time and blah, blah, blah. And there's no room for you to say, I'm hungry, or I'm full, or
Mm,
I'm tired,
mm,
or I have more energy today than I did yesterday. And I think it's the same with self-care, when we can kind of rediscover ourselves and rediscover what makes us feel good. Then we can kind of tap into ourselves and be like, okay, so I have like 15 minutes today that I can make for myself. What would feel really nourishing to do today?
mm.
Like maybe it's taking a bath, maybe it's making some healthy food, maybe, what feels really nourishing to me today? We can kind of tap into what we need when we get to know ourselves again.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Because sometimes yeah, you're right. We go into like this preconceived idea of what self care looks like, but then it's just a matter of knowing who we are. Yeah, you can meditate.
Hmm.
Yes, you can do yoga.
Hmm.
Yes, you can do all the things you can, like, but sometimes just like going to sit on your balcony will do the
Yeah,
tricks, and that
right,
that is self care, and it's just a matter
right,
of knowing who we are, and so we can embrace those parts of ourselves and
right,
create from that area,
right. One of the things I talk to my clients about is decision fatigue. Like, you make
Mm,
thousands and thousands of decisions every day. And if you have to sit there and like logic through what I should do for self-care, or what I should eat today, or how I should move today,
mm,
you may not do any of it because you're so overwhelmed with trying to make the decision that you just put the whole thing off. So
yeah,
I think it's so important to be able to just, tap into what feels good for me today and be okay with whatever comes up.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I so agree with that. And like, as women also, I feel like our bodies are so different than the men's
Hmm.
because we go through
Hmm.
cycles every month, it's
Hmm.
monthly, where for men it's different, and
Yeah.
um for us to be able to connect with what is it that we need in that
Hmm.
moment, changed my life. For me, like to get to know my cycles and to get
Hmm.
to know what do I need when I'm in
Right.
those part of the cycles. So when I'm PMSing, like don't ask me to just like record 10 podcast episode and to go
Right.
online every day because I'm just gonna scream at everybody. Like it's just
Right.
not good,
Right.
you know?
It's
And
not what my body needs right now.
exactly. So
Right.
it needs to be like nurtured a lot right before I
Yeah.
go into my moon cycles. And so it's just like, and to get to know ourselves in that way and to know that we have like those 2 weeks in a month that were so productive and so beautiful and so like
Yes.
we're just like glowing. And these are the
Yes.
moments where you go and you just like you go at it. And then the
Yeah.
rest of the month, you just like do a little bit more of that self-care. I think like
Right.
that's how I see it. That's how
Yeah.
I've been living. And like I'm just so grateful to be able to create my life according to that. And I know that it's
Right.
not everybody, but I think that as you said, it could be just a 15 minutes just like replenished
Right.
um in those in especially in those 2 weeks of the cycles where we need a little bit more of self-care and
Right. And I think it's so important to normalize that, right?
yeah.
Like that
Yeah, I mean,
when you need to rest, you need to rest. Like, and it's not that you're being lazy or bad. It's just that your body needs to rest right now. And um, I think that that's another thing that society teaches us that like we always have to be going, we always have to be going, and that's not how we're designed to operate.
yes.
So instead of like beating ourselves up and being like, oh my gosh, why am I so tired? I'm so lazy. I'm so, you know, why don't I feel good? And like making it like it's something morally bad about
Hmm.
ourselves. It can be really beautiful. Like, okay, so this is what my body is telling me, and I know what I can do to help myself feel better in this interim, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like when you say those kind of things to women, like to get to be more happy, to do more
Hmm.
self-care, to listen to your body, to your cycles, like how do they react? Is that like a relief or is that like something like that is like triggering? Like how do
Hmm.
women react?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's one of the reasons that my business has evolved the way it has. I was a personal trainer for years and years, and I just realized that no matter what I told people to do, they would self-sabotage. And I was like, what am I missing? So I started studying emotional healing and spiritual healing. And what I've noticed is that women don't know that this is the problem.
Hmm.
They don't realize that they're not resting. They don't realize that they are beating themselves up about everything. They don't realize that those are the problems. What they think is the problem is that they need to lose weight. And so that's kind of how my messaging has evolved. Now I'm marketing to women who want to lose weight, but that's not really what we talk about. Once we get in there, we're talking about, okay, so how can we get more happy? How can we declutter our lives physically and emotionally? How
Hmm.
can we heal these little beliefs that we have that are keeping us spinning our wheels and never moving forward?
Hmm.
Um, like what were we told when we were little that's still playing in our heads over and over? So it's really interesting. So when we start talking about it, there is, like you said, a lot of like people are triggered because they think that, well, if I don't do the dishes before I sit down and rest at night, then I'm a bad person and I'm going to get in
Hmm.
trouble and all of
Hmm.
these things, right? And really, like, okay, you've had an exhausting day. You can sit down and the dishes will still be there. Like, it's okay, right? Like, so it's really triggering for a lot of people, and they've grown up thinking that they are a good person or a bad person, depending on how they do these certain tasks or
Right.
how they order certain things, and so it's about kind of unraveling those things, and that's a really big piece to this self-discovery, like,
Hmm.
oh, that's why I think that, or that's why I feel that way when this happens. And it's really interesting to kind of dive into it and see people be like, oh, that's why, you know. And then what we find is that women start being motivated to make healthier choices because they understand why they're behaving the way they're behaving. The problem with the diet and fitness industry is that the message is all you have to do is change your behavior, but you can't change your behavior until you've changed the beliefs that are driving the behavior.
Yeah.
So that's what we talk about when we really get in there. But it's so interesting. Like you said, people aren't even aware that they're having these thoughts and feelings, and then
Mm.
when you tell them, it's triggering. Like,
Yeah.
wow, that's the way I grew up, and that, so it's really interesting. That's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I've seen it as well. Like an Ayurvedic wellness coach, they go, um, and people will want to either lose weight or get more healthy. And then
Hmm.
in Ayurveda, we touch on everything. Like, how is your
Yeah.
spirituality? Do you commute to go to work? What is your work? Do you enjoy it? How many kids do you have? Do you enjoy that? And
Right.
because everything is taken in consideration because we're a systemic being, like, and so you
Yes.
don't like your job and it pisses you off to go every day. Well, of course you're gonna like your body could go and put on some weight to protect yourself,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know, and then
Right.
you remove the job or you deal with whatever pisses you off in the job,
Right.
and then you will start losing the weight. It's just like, for me, what I've realized is like sometimes I will eat super healthy and I will move and I will
Mm.
go outside and I will like gain weight. And it's like, well, what's going on? I'm kind of
Yeah.
doing everything that I
Right.
should.
Right.
But then when I
Right.
go a little deeper, it's like, yeah, I feel like lonely or whatever, you got
Yeah.
something else. And then when you address that, then I start losing the weight. Like
Right.
it's not always interconnected with how I eat or how do I exercise, but how do I think? How do I feel? Um, what's going on in my life?
Right.
That
It's
will
about that
affect.
awareness. Yeah.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so. I think
And
so.
I think it's so interesting because I'm sure you find this too when you start to pull that thread and be like, okay, so this is what I'm really thinking and feeling about my job, let's say. When you start to fix the things around that, not only does the job get better, but the weight gets better and maybe your feelings about money get better and maybe your relationships get a little better because it's
Mm.
all stemming from that one thing.
Yeah,
So it's so interesting once we start to heal those little emotional wounds,
yeah,
it's across the board, makes everything better.
yeah.
So when you go in thinking weight loss or your weight is the problem, and then when we dive a little bit deeper and see what the problem actually is, it doesn't just fix one thing, it fixes all the things.
Yes. Yes, definitely, definitely. I love that. I love that, and I agree with that 100%. I don't think we have like this one way of doing. And I feel like when we help women and ourselves
Hmm.
reconnect with who we are and what we need exactly, that's how because we're all different, like
Right,
we're all different. And so something will work for you that will never work for me, and
right.
vice versa. And it's like to get to know that and to be able to implement stuff in your life according to
Yeah,
who you really are is
right,
priceless. It's priceless.
right. And it's not just like our bodies are different, like our entire realities are different, right? Like one of the most
Yeah.
interesting things I've ever learned or ever like was brought to my awareness is that your reality is totally different from my reality. It's not like there's one reality that everybody's operating on. Like we could go to the same grocery store and buy the same foods and check out at the same checkout counter and have a completely different experience because you'll
Yes.
notice things based on your past experiences. I'll notice things based on my past experiences. You'll feel some way about spending the money because of your past experiences. I'll
Yeah.
I'll feel a different way about spending the money. So like our realities are totally different. So our beliefs are different. The things that we've seen and heard are different. The things that we've learned are different. So, I mean, holistically, we're totally different people
Yeah.
and need totally different things. And so I think that's why it's so cool doing what you do, because you can, like you said, dive into all those aspects of a person's life and really dive into what's happening right now in their reality and how can we shift that.
Yeah, in the present moment, because sometimes we
Yeah.
think we have to go way back and, do those intense psychoanalysis. And it's just like,
Right.
it's just
Years of
so,
therapy.
yeah, years of therapy, like talking about this
Right.
shit all day long to
Right.
heal. And it can work. I mean, like sometimes it works, but you can also do stuff in the present moment
Yes.
because that's where you are and that's where you heal. Like you're not gonna
Right.
heal in the past. Like what happened in the past just happened. You got to just like
Right.
be at peace with it. But you can
Right.
change so much in the present moment by getting to
Yeah.
know yourself. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so cool. I always tell people like the first step in this whole process, and I'm sure even if you don't say it in this many words, it's the same for you. Like awareness is the first step. Like you have to
Yeah.
be aware of, like,
Yeah.
take a minute, close your eyes. What emotions are you experiencing? What are you thinking about? Like are you angry? What are you thinking about? Your job? Like
Yeah.
this is what you were talking about. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I think you're right. We can do a lot of healing very quickly when we're aware of what's happening.
Yes. Yes, I feel the same because even if you're not doing something to change stuff, if you're aware of it, that's the
Hmm.
first step,
Yeah.
and just don't beat yourself up. Be aware of
Right.
it. It's
Right.
it's already magical, it's already you're
Yeah.
already getting there. It's the first step and it's the for me I feel like I remember back then it was the biggest step, to be
Yeah.
aware of stuff and then after that you get to know what to do about it. But at the beginning you
Right.
just get to know what's going on, what is it?
Yeah. And
And
sometimes it takes just like a tiny perspective shift. Like, I have to go to this job every day. Or do you get to go to this job every day? And do you have the option
mm,
to look for other jobs while you're working at this job? You know what I mean? Just like a little
oh
perspective
yeah.
shift sometimes is all it takes to be like, oh, okay, I'm not trapped. I'm not stuck. This isn't out of my control, you know?
Yeah, being aware of the I have to, I should, those
Hmm.
things. When you shift your perspective around those and you realize that you're making a choice and you
Right.
have the power in your hands,
Right. Right.
um, it just changes everything. It changes everything.
Yeah. I think if there are two things that people can realize and deeply um believe, it's that we're not alone. Any problem that we're having, someone else has surely either had it or will have it.
For
And
sure.
that we're not powerless.
Mm, yeah.
Life
Yeah.
is happening for us, not to us, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's so funny because as you were saying earlier, we're all different and then we're still like not alone because we're all the same in some
Mm,
ways, we do
hmm.
experience life in different ways, but if we can connect to the core of who we are, that's how we
Hmm.
can connect with everybody else, and so
Right.
you're right, we're not alone. And yeah, I feel like being sovereign of our bodies, I mean, yeah, that's the revolution in itself. I mean,
Yes. Yes. And I think that especially for women, regardless of age or socioeconomic level or education level or any of those things, like the single determining factor that I find that's across the board is there has been something that someone has said or done that makes us feel like we're not worthy.
mm,
And when we can heal that, then it becomes easier for us to take care of ourselves and it becomes easier for us to be in relationships fully and experience joy more and all of those things. But
yeah,
it's that one that like, and it could be a million different reasons why we feel that way, but it's that one thing. And
mm,
until you feel like you're worthy of it, you're not going to take care of yourself.
yeah, yeah, you're right. So how do you put that into women's consciousness? Like, how do you go about it in your coaching?
Um, Well, we go into it very slowly because, again, this can be very triggering. And a lot of times it's something that you've experienced with your parents or someone that you're close to
Mm,
or whatever that is. So it can be triggering, like, oh, no, I have a good relationship with my mom. Yeah, you can have a good relationship with your mom. But when you were 3 and you heard this is what you made it mean so that you could understand it. So we do a lot of inner child work
mm,
and just reassuring that, like, when was the first time you felt that way? And maybe it was when I was 6. Okay, what was happening? And this was happening. Okay, so if you are the grown up in this situation, what can you tell your little 6-year-old
mm,
self to make them feel better? And sometimes that's all it takes to turn the light on and let people have the awareness around, oh, so this is why I feel the way about this and about this. And then we can start to um, create a more positive experience out of that situation. So it can be a learning experience instead of I have to hide because I'm not good enough
mm.
experience.
Yeah. I love inner child work. I even do
Mhm.
it with my kids. I have 3 kids.
Me too.
And
Uh-huh.
right. And if they feel something that is stuck from like 2 years ago, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
old they are. We can just
Right.
sit with that. And like my oldest daughter was like, "Oh, you did that or you said that." And all right, so just let's sit
Right.
with that and sit with this the way that it affected you, because my
Right. How it made
intention
you
wasn't,
feel.
yeah, my
Right.
intention wasn't to put you down or to do anything
Right.
bad, because I love you. But you somehow, like, in your mind, you recorded that experience as
Hmm.
something negative that will impact you for the rest of your life if you don't deal
Right.
with it. So just like sit
Right.
with it, so we can just like heal that right there, right now on the
Right.
spot, you know.
Right.
And because I think that as adult we have to do that, and it's so hard because we have to go back, way back, like way
Right.
back. But when we
Right.
have kids and when we learn that as women and we can give that back
Hmm.
to our kids, like we shift the
Right.
transgenerational patterns that are
Yes.
stuck for generations and
Yes.
generation back. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's the inner child work. It's just so powerful. It's just
It
like,
is.
and to be able, like, I know that not all women's are mothers, like in the
Hmm.
tangible world, but we can all
Right.
be mothers to those parts of ourselves,
Right.
to be able to
Exactly.
just like nurture and to be there for that kid that is wounded inside of you, doesn't
Right.
know what to do, doesn't know how to heal, and to find ways to, yeah, to
Yeah. And
communicate with that.
if you're not a mother, it will still affect all the relationships that you're in, right?
Exactly.
Because you'll act differently at work, you'll act differently in a
Mm,
romantic relationship, you'll act differently maybe with your parents or your siblings
mm.
and your friends because you'll be able to come at it from a healthier place for yourself.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That is so true. That is so true.
And I think you may find this too when you're making a big lifestyle modification, like you're starting Ayurvedic or you're starting into emotional healing. A lot of times you'll find that if you're really honest with yourself, some of the people in your life are never going to understand what you're doing, and
Mm,
maybe some people will fall away, and that's okay, you
yeah,
know.
that's a big part of it, right? You must
Hmm.
encounter that because it must be
Yeah.
like it must be happening, because when we go into those area for sure, like we get, some people will fall back.
Right.
Some people, and it can be scary, like,
Right.
because we don't want to be alone, because we're like such social creatures,
Right.
and it's scary. It is so scary, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you
And
deal
and
with
I
that
feel
with
like, yeah,
with
I feel like it can also be empowering because instead of shutting off who you are to make the other
mm,
person happy to you know smooth it over, you can say, "Hey, you know what? This is who I am, and I'm discovering a lot about myself, and this is the direction that I want to go, and
mm,
I would love for you to come with me, but if you're not willing, then I release you." And it can be too that you have relationships from way back that you just feel like you can't let go of, but that those can shift too. Like you don't have to give all of yourself to everyone. Does that make sense? Like you
Yeah.
can modify those relationships or you can let them fall away, and that's okay, because I feel like when we do that, we're opening up space for people who really understand us to come in.
Yeah, that is something that I had to deal with so much in my life actually,
Hmm.
because I feel like I don't have any filters and I'm just like I'm just who I am and you
Yeah.
take it or you leave it. But
Yeah.
then, you get I don't know, like I got like to one point. I think when I started to have children, you kind of
Mm,
want to have like your tribe around you because
right.
it takes a village. It really does,
Right. Right.
and yeah, I could have been better at just like filtering some of the stuff that I do for
Mm,
myself that I don't have to impose to anyone or to just
mm,
like try to convince anyone that what I'm doing is all
uh,
right.
yeah. Right.
um but yeah, it is something. The tribal consciousness is so
Hmm.
potent and it's so still very present. um
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal to just like be able to release uh family member. For me, that was like family member. It was like, oh my god, it is so freaking hard to do.
Right.
And yeah, when you succeed to do that, you let them go. Because in the past, I remember I did like let them go in a very um frustrated way, like,
Mhm.
like just
Mm.
fuck off, like just
Right.
go about your
Right.
day and just forget about me.
Yeah.
But to do it like with love, just like you said,
Hmm.
like to just like be there for yourself, and that 100% be there for yourself with love, and to just like express that to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I feel like it comes from um a different space.
Right.
And I
Right.
just love that so much because I'm still learning that.
Right. And I think that's part of creating boundaries, right? Just creating boundaries around who and what make us feel at our best, and allowing in more of what makes us feel good, and being at peace with not having as much of what doesn't feel good, right?
Yeah, yeah, we get so addicted to the things that even don't feel good, and
Hmm.
it's like we have to keep on doing it, for some reason.
Right. Like they're comfortably comfortable. Like our
Yeah.
brains want us to stay the same, right? They want everything to stay the same because that's safe. And so we get in this pattern where even though like I feel frustrated and I feel like you don't understand me, I'm spending all my time with you because you have been who I've spent all my time with, and that
Hmm.
feels safe. And it feels unsafe, like you were saying, to
Yeah.
release people from our lives because of that whole tribal um, mindset that we have. And so um, I think that when we can reassure again and reassure that little part of us that's scared that it's not safe to let someone go, that
Mm.
we're safe and it's okay, and this, we don't have to completely cut this person out, but our energy doesn't feel good when we spend this much time with them, so we're going to
Mm.
create a little boundary around it.
Yeah, and sometimes like I know that from my personal experience, like lately I was very bound to people in my past, but they're not like in my physical life, but they're in my
Mm,
emotional life. Like I'm still like
yes.
attached to them in some ways,
Yes.
and they kind of released me. But then
Hmm.
you got like this emotional bound to people that are not even in your life anymore. But it's
Right.
that's why I think it's so tricky to just like try to cut people off your life because
Mhm.
they're still there. They're
Right.
still somewhere, like.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's just another level of awareness because yeah,
Mm.
sometimes we think that just like it's like with food, sometimes we think we just like get off of sugar and we're going to be fine, and then
Right.
if you still think about it all the time and you
Yeah.
restrict yourself into like
Right.
not doing it, like you're doing more harm than
Right. Right.
than
Exactly. And I think that this again, that perfectionisty part of us thinks that it has to be all or nothing, right? Like I can either have all the sugar or no sugar. I can either have this person in my life or not have this person in my life, and there's no gray, right? So when we can kind of ease that up, and I think for releasing the people, that's one of the tools that I like to use with my clients is called energetic cord cutting. And
Mm,
it's kind of exactly what you're talking about. Like, even though I'm not seeing this person on a daily basis, I am still giving and receiving so much energy from this relationship energetically. And it just
mm.
is exhausting and it doesn't feel good
So,
anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
So we
exhausting.
do like a meditation called a cord cutting, which helps us just like let go
Mm.
of those feelings and let go of that energy flow. And it doesn't mean that we have to cut the person out, but it just means that we're not going to keep dumping so much energy into it.
I
Yeah.
love that. I know that you're working a bit with the nervous system as well, I think. Am I
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you work with the nervous system? I know that nervous system is like it's core to a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed it in my life and
Yeah.
in other people's as well.
The way the nervous system relates to what I do is that a lot of times when we're stressed out, and what I find with women who are chronic dieters is that, like you were talking about the sugar, they're constantly thinking about food.
Mm,
What am I going to eat? What should I eat? I shouldn't have eaten that. I should eat this. Tomorrow I'm going to eat this. I'm going to have to make up for this tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Like constant. And when
constant.
I ask women, again, how often do you think about food? Oh, just when I'm eating. And then we dive a little bit deeper. Oh, well, then I think about it when and then I think about it when I'm shopping. And then I think about it. And then I think about it. And then I think about it. And we're thinking about it all day long. So, um, what happens then is we're stressed out about it. So our cortisol levels go up.
Mm,
And then we're in this like low level fight or flight mechanism all the time. We're
mm,
in this survival mode all the time. So our blood pressure is higher than it should be. Our respiration is higher than it should be. Our heart rate's higher than it should be, all because of these thoughts.
mm.
So when we can be aware of the thoughts and then we can talk ourselves down and be like, it's okay that I just had a piece of cake. Piece of cake is not going to make me gain 10 pounds. I'm going to be okay. It's someone's birthday. This is a special thing. You know, when we can talk ourselves down and not keep in that cycle, oh my God, I'm a bad person. I ate this cake. Then we can bring our nervous system to rest and digest because when we're up in fight or flight, our food is not getting digested because our system is telling us that we shouldn't spend energy digesting our food because we might have to run. So we're just going to hold on to all these calories and all this fat because we might need it for energy later. When
Mm-mm.
we can get down into rest and digest, our bodies are being told by our nervous system that it's okay to digest our food and get rid of whatever we don't need and use what we need and not worry about the rest.
Mm.
So it's so intertwined, and that's why it drives me crazy that the diet industry wants you to think it's just calories in and calories out. No,
Mm-mm.
it's a simple math problem, and it's not. If it
It's
was
not.
that simple, we would not have this problem.
Yeah.
Not one of my clients has a problem with, simple addition and subtraction. So the way that we work with the nervous system to correct that is we do somatic practices. So we do breath work as a preemptive measure, not just when we're feeling nervous and stressed, because we're not always aware that we're nervous and stressed. So doing breath work or meditation or uplifting reading or something like that will help us train our bodies to come down out of that response so that when we notice we're in that response, we can bring it right down. So it's kind of a practice. And I'm sure in Ayurveda, you talk about practices too that are preemptive. It's not slapping a band-aid on a scraped knee. It's like preemptive so that the body reacts the way it should in these situations. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And we always say that you're better eating a burger and loving the hell out of it
Mm-hmm.
than to eat salad and be stressed about
Right.
like eating it because you're
Right.
thinking about the calories and you're thinking about this
Right.
and this and this and then you have to eat it because this is how
Right.
you're gonna like the
Right.
stress level is always the core thing, I think,
Yes.
because yeah, like you can like I know a lot of people and I know for myself as well, like when I'm not stressed I can eat anything. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I'm
Right.
never gonna
Mm-hmm.
gain any weight because I just love it and I'm not stressful. It's not stressful to even eat or to do anything, if I'm not
Right.
stressing, like I remember after my first pregnancy, it was like the best time of my life. I was never
Yeah.
stressed. I was just like so aligned. And I
Yeah.
lost the weight of my pregnancy in like 2 weeks. It was
Yeah.
crazy. I was like, what?
Yeah.
How is this happening?
Right.
And everybody
Right.
was like, how are you so thin? Like you just gave
Yeah.
life to a baby and
Yeah.
you're a single parent. And I was like, I just love where I live. I don't
Mm.
have to work. I spend all
Mhm.
my days according to my cycles, like natural
Mhm.
cycles. And I spend time getting to know this amazing being. I'm just
Right.
like just loving the life. And so I just
Right.
lost all the weight super easily. And
Mhm.
then I never gained it back up until the point where I was like really stressful. Everything was
Yeah.
stressful and I was super stressed.
Mhm.
And then I started to gain weight again. And I was like, well, I'm not that overweight, but like even like a little 10 pounds over,
Yeah.
it feels like when I look at myself, I'm like, like this is me, but not. And I know this
Right.
is not because I eat some stuff, but because I'm stressed.
Right.
And if I calm that, then I'm gonna lose the weight. And then when I'm stressed
Yeah.
again, it just like goes
Right.
back on. Suddenly it's
And
like, how is that even
right.
possible?
And it's kind of like, can we honor that process and can we honor that this is our body's way of showing us
Yeah.
what's happening?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just like our moon cycles, right? It's like this is what our bodies are supposed to do when we're under stress. They're supposed to save energy for fight
Yeah.
or flight. So, can we honor that our bodies are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing and thank them for doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then ask them what we can do to nurture and nourish so that they don't have to be so stressed out?
Yeah, I love that. And I feel exactly the same. If I go to war with my body, like
Mhm.
I'm just like, increasing the stress. And so if I sit and just love what's going on
Right,
and just like be there for this part of me that feels stressed out,
right.
it's just like
Yeah, be
I know
friends with
it's
your body.
I think I
Yeah,
think it's just a
exactly.
matter of knowing how to communicate with your body and to not
Hmm.
get attached to how you look, but how you feel
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that I think that this is one of the reasons we get so worked up about it is because society tells us we're worthy if we're thin.
Yeah. Which is so crazy.
And it's so insane because, first of all, not all of us are built to be thin. Second of all, it's like, why would that determine your worth? But especially for women, there's that worthiness piece surrounding our weight. And when we can reassure ourselves and be so gentle with ourselves and just be like, oh, this is my body's way of telling me
Mm,
what needs to happen. And when I can really get to know her so well that I know what she needs, then we can start to counteract that. And like we were saying, like when you had your first baby, you were so joyful,
mm,
right? You were full of joy. And
yeah.
so you weren't relying on food for entertainment or comfort, and your stress levels were down. So you're digesting and using the food that you were eating well. And then, when you're stressed, like we talked about, all those physiological things go on with our bodies. And it's not just what we're eating, but it can be a vicious cycle of
Mm,
like eating things that don't feel good because we don't feel good and
mm,
all of
mm.
the things. So it's not just a math equation, it's so tied into how we feel and how we're living. And um, so I think that's so important for people to know because that's not the message we get.
Yeah, that's just not. You're right. You're right. Oh my God. Thanks so much. I feel like we can talk for so much
I
more
know.
time.
I know. It
Oh
was
my
fun.
God. It was so
It
fun.
was
So
fun talking with you.
yeah, it was. So to finish, like what would be like, your main tip like, that you would give to women that are trying or wanting to lose weight? Like what would be your main
Mhm.
advice for them?
Um, I am a big fan of small, sustainable, baby steps.
Mm.
I am a big believer that if you try to overhaul your whole life, it's not going to work and you're not going to stick to it. And you've probably done it a million times before. So, what I like to tell people is start with one small thing and do it for a few weeks. And then when you feel really comfortable with that, like that's really dialed in, then add another thing. And what I would love for people to start with is just start being aware of the thoughts that are in your head about your
Mm.
body, about food, about your weight, about your worthiness, and start to look at how it's all tied together. And if you need help, talk to a coach because sometimes we can't even get to the nitty gritty without
Mm.
someone asking us questions and drawing it out of us. But just start being aware of how many times do I think about food? What am I making it mean about me when I think about food?
Mm.
Um, those little questions and just journaling about it can be so helpful to just get the ball rolling. And then I think the mental and emotional stuff has to come first. Even though people want it to be quick, they want the physical thing because they think the physical thing is the problem. But I think when you can start with that emotional piece and start being really gentle with yourself and just kind of observe
Mm.
and be aware, it's a game changer.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much. That's a good advice. That is a very good advice. Thank you so much for spending an hour with
Yeah,
us.
of
And
course.
yeah,
It's
I'll,
so
I'll
much
link.
fun.
Yeah, I'll link everything down below for people to be able to reach out to you.
Perfect.
I think you're gonna be a great addition for the people that wants to change their perspective on losing weight. You know.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
all
Thank you
right.
so much. I love what you're doing and I admire your um, way of life and that you're getting the word out to all these women. So thank you very much for what you're
Thank
doing.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate that you're here with me. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with people you think might benefit from it. If you need support with your lifestyle and well being, feel free to reach out to me. It will be my pleasure to help you with an Ayurvedic consultation. You can go to my website, marigolera.com, to book a session with me. Remember, in the wisdom of Ayurveda, self care is not a luxury, but a sacred responsibility and a journey of nurturing oneself to foster holistic well being. I wish you an amazing rest of your day. Much love to you, and I'll see you in the next episode.